The following is a transcript between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am, originally produced on May 5th, 2021, under the constellation of Taurus in the mental week, examining through the solar plexus. Me. Speaking of the historical idea of abundance, you mentioned that individuals used to relate abundance with accumulation because those who had more lived longer, and therefore those who had less lived less. A simple logical relationship that whoever eats lives, and whoever does not eat dies. What we saw in this is that for a mere matter of survival, human culture has blurred the idea of being abundant to the point of believing that it has to do with wealth and not with exchange, forgetting the fundamental key to wealth, which is exchange, and therefore sharing. This, which led to the creation of mean and greedy individuals, led to a society of consumption and accumulation of goods as a human foundation, but above all, I believe it led to something worse. I am to what? Me, to control. Whoever accumulates what is scarce in others has power over others. I am, well, let's redefine this concept, because what you really want to refer to is power. The word control has nothing to do with manipulating someone, although it has come down to our times. Control comes from the Latin contra rotulus. The word contra comes from two things that oppose or differentiate each other. Con equals unity, and tra, between, in the English against. While rotulus means device that rotates, that turns. This refers to the system of official communication from Roman times spread throughout Europe, and from there to the world in medieval and colonial times, where royal or imperial communications were made on paper rolls with a certified duplicate. These official rolls were called rotulus, and the duplicates contra. Thus, the contra rotulus, or the contre-roll in French, when the duplicate certificate that validated what was sent by the ruler so that the document would not be forged. This is called contre-roll mechanism, a term that, when pronounced in French, passed onto other Romance languages as control. Me, wow, I would have never thought of that. So the control mechanism is not to impose oneself on others, but to make sure that something is, as said, checked. I am, yes, but of course, who lays down the law? Me, the king, emperor, the feudal? I am, which is why the law checked by controls of the state ended up being a synonym for the weight of the law or the government on the population. Me, oh sure, it makes sense now. I am, control is a necessary mechanism for the security of what is said or commanded. It is a way to corroborate that what is said is true before the law, so that there can be no deception. But the same system of control is the one that is distorted when the real conflict enters. Me, the power. I am, our old and desired friend. Today, just as control has taken on a negative connotation, power is often a word with a positive connotation, for in the social and cultural and spiritual world, we often speak of inner power or people power. We ourselves use the word empowerment to recognize the inner mandate of one's life, and indeed the mantra, I can, is an important concept to develop, as in the first months of our year in the sign of Leo. However, it awakens ambiguities such as the struggle against power, or the power of those who have more, or the power of the government or of the rich. The idea of power has governed humanity for millennia, and everything has its logic and origin in the first tribes or human families. Power comes from the Indo-European word potus, meaning master, lord, or owner. The idea comes from the fact that, just like most hominoids, the times of crisis, the alpha male takes command of the herd and takes over the individuals in its own, taking the females at its disposal, something that we call cuffing, meaning being under the owner or belonging to the master. Oh, that's strong. The word cuffs implies a sense of belonging to someone. I am, objects and subjects under the power of an individual who accumulates them and appears to be abundant, only because his power has allowed him to possess it. Power is the dominion that one has over things, and therefore inner power refers to having full control over one's thoughts, emotions, and actions. Cultural power is the power to dominate, freedom of expression. The power of a government is the grace given to regulate the individuals that make up a nation. To dominate comes from the word domus, which means house, home, that is, he who can manage his own home. Thus, the one who administered the resources was the powerful one, and the one who had power over things. The idea was intensified when the law of survival implied a constant struggle. Thus, security became key to subsistence, and the oldest natural law of all was established. The law of the strongest. I am. The alpha male was the one who possesses the most strength, and therefore could protect his own. But in humans, due to neutral development and intelligence, strength became strategy as well. Strategy gave more power to rule others, to manipulate them, to extort them, to direct them, which gave rise to the emergence of kings. Strength no longer depended on the physique of the one in power, but on the ability to manage the strength of others. And the others obeyed his orders, since the king, in his custody of food necessary for subsistence. In exchange for food, the king obtained protection and trust, and if anyone dared to betray the trust, the power fell on him, even with the penalty of death. Force became a natural tool of control, since the king's ferocity was transmitted by word of mouth to his enemies, enlarging his image, generating fear and dread, the emotions of control par excellence. Brute force became mental force, and from there the strength of power was constituted. And that is why, whenever someone obtains power, he usually shields himself in the strength of others, as the states use the military and the police. I am, exactly. From the beginning, and one who possesses the goods, the money, the resources, has the power to command over others, and is assured of subsistence by being protected by the security forces. It is horrible. I am, but it is what you have created throughout history. The fear of dying has made you build societies that need control mechanisms, because people have no power, so they need someone to give them power, or at least the idea of it. The sense of belonging to a clan gave rise to the sense of nationalism, which is the origin of populism, in which individuals surrender their personal power to the power of the group, and the group surrenders its power to a leader who tells them where to direct that power. And if the individuals awaken their power, the leader will turn around using the very strength of the people to defend themselves. It's not new, this is old. Does this mean that we are regulated to live like this? I am, no. It means that you are still in the process of evolution. And how do we begin to transform this? I am. By finding one's own empowering strength to be able to master oneself and thus be abundant. Me. What is strength? I am. Strength comes from strong, which comes from the Indo-European breg, meaning high mountain. The mountain is a symbol of rigidity, solidity, immovable firmness, and therefore it was the preferred site for the construction of protected sites, such as castles or fortifications. As the word itself says, a medieval fortress, a battle fort, a stronghold, or fortification. In English, strength comes from strynik, which also gives origin to strong, and is related to narrow and tight, something that gives the idea of placing things very close to each other until they are impossible to move. Me. Everything refers to a structure, to a rigid construction. I am. That is, an object or subject that integrates everything, that possesses all that is required, that is firm in its being, a being that has not managed to work on each of its internal aspects is a construction destined to collapse, from which no one can claim to be powerful. Imagine that your body was a tower. If this tower has no foundation, or if it lacks stone in its walls, or if it lacks a buttress, or if no good mortar has been used to connect the parts, then the tower will have no consistency in itself. You must understand in this analogy that we are referring to the physical, emotional, and mental states of a person, to the fact of working inwardly or not, of recognizing the shadows and lights, of being flexible or not, of being whole or ignorant. Me. To strengthen the self is to rebuild its parts, like putting together a tower. I am. It is to become a mountain, integrating every rock, river, and tree in you. Me. It reminds me of the phrase, to be strong is an oak. When I was a kid, I was 12 years old, and in my school, I had an oak friend. I always went to visit him and sat under him and told him all the things that happened to me, which most of the time were quite heavy and depressing. One day, I came crying because I felt so heavy from everything that was happening to me, and on top of that, the bullying at school. I need to talk to someone, but no one understood me because I didn't even know what was happening to me. And I remember him telling me, for years I have been weak, fragile to the changes of the world around me, but I never stopped. The wind can bend you like hurtful words, but you will only overcome them by becoming flexible. The rigidity of the ground will keep you from expanding, like the structures that design your world. But with the patience, you will always find the cracks through which to extend your being. The sun sometimes burns, as do the expectations we have. However, like its rays, they become the fuel for your expansion. And sometimes you will face storms, and some lightning will strike very close to you. I have lived it, and I have been damaged. But in every storm comes new hope, water, steadfastness, self-confidence, flexibility, recognizing what the world hands you is what awakens the strength to face the world. Look at me, he would say to me. Today I am strong and robust, centered on me. No one gave me that strength. I built it with my experience. Whenever I pass my school as an adult, I go to visit him, and in fact, I always think and say that the day I die, I want to be buried under an oak tree to become one like him. I am. As the oak tree has told you, strength is something that is built with inner integrity, with the ability to take mastery of oneself in the face of the forces of the world. Strength of integrity does not empower you to control your surroundings, but to awaken power over yourself. Power is the product of potential, and it arises only from the energy that lies within you, not from the things that you get from outside. All power generated by accumulation of resources is but the mask of impending decay. All power built within is that which endures through time and space. Me, the strength of being in the solar plexus, then, is not about the ability to expand my power to those with whom I relate, but to find the firmness of myself without losing the axis between the external forces that pull me. It is not to lose myself in spite of emotions, conflict, and ideas. I am. He who, unconscious of his potentials, oscillates between his personal relationship, oscillates in the truth of others, oscillates in the beliefs of the world, will break. He who, in consciousness, oscillates, learns from others, remembering that the reason for his movement is thanks to the axis on which his pendulum is anchored. Me, the force arises from me, and when I share this force, we create a network of powerful beings upon themselves. I am. Build your inner power from the strength of your integrity, and only then can you generate a movement of conscious beings that transforms reality. Become the mountain, become the oak, and become who you are. Me, I am.